now for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning. Let's bring in Arise analyst Dr. Constance Ikoku. Good morning, Constance.
Good morning, Charles. How is the midweek treating you?
Well, fantastically so, because we're celebrating this day's 30th anniversary. Check that out.
Yes, a lot to talk about. Where's your glasses anyway?
Oh, yeah,
contact.
I need to change them. They're hurting my eyes now.
Okay, yes. A lot to talk about this day. Good morning, Adesua and Yolanda. How are you guys today?
Very good, thank you. It's good to see you.
Awesome. To look at the papers with us this morning, we have Emmanuel Aziken. He is a columnist with Vanguard newspaper. Hello there and welcome to the program, and we'll begin with This Day, the paper that we'll be discussing today. The headline is This Day is 30 today. Commemoration awards for the tough and resilient on January 27. What a milestone for the paper. 30 years is no mean feat. It started publication in January 1995, and against all odds, it is still here. This anniversary will be celebrated with an award night honoring many people that have accomplished great things in their fields of endeavor. I'm so happy today to discuss this because I consider myself one of the success stories of this day, because I joined the paper at the age of 24, 25. You know, after youth service, and you know, I grew through the ranks. And listen, I can tell you that running a newspaper business is rugged in Nigeria. It's not for the faint-hearted at all. You know, the foot soldiers, the men and the women, correspondents, reporters, editors that keep it afloat, oftentimes they are not appreciated enough for the hard work that they do to run the different titles, you know. So you have to give it to the chairman and editor-in-chief of This Day newspaper, Mr. Nduka Obagbena, you know, and the staff that have carried This Day to this day. Emmanuel, you edited the title in a rival newspaper, Vanguard, so you know what I'm talking about. Mr. Obagbena is, and you know, without doubt, he is a leader and a pace setter in this industry.
Well, first of all, I didn't edit. I was a line editor at a Vanguard newspaper.
Yeah.
And undoubtedly, the Duke, as we call him, he's a man that we all men of the pen profession look up to in Nigeria for the innovation he brought into the industry, into the media space, and the encouragement he brought onto he inspired in journalists. The innovations he put in the media space. These are memories that cannot be wished away. Nduka Obagbena, Prince Nduka Obagbena, the Prince of our kingdom, is a legend that every journalist, and in fact every Nigerian stakeholder, looks up to. He has done much. He has inspired. I remember when I was in Kaduna, I was a young man, we would go up, look for This Day to read. You know, it was like a literature, especially the Sunday title, which you, Dr. Constance, edited. It's Nduka Obagbena undoubtedly is a phenomenon. He has touched every life through This Day, and Arise now that it has even come up to become the star of the broadcast industry.
Right. I didn't edit the Sunday title. I worked as a cub reporter for the Sunday title, first of all under Eniola Bello and Bolaji Abdullahi, and later under Shego Adeniyi. And then, of course, yeah, Sunday paper was the highest selling paper for This Day because it was a political paper. You were a political editor yourself. So, I mean, guys, you know, your experiences in the media industry, you know, it's hard work, you know, and sometimes or many times, journalists should give themselves a pat on the back too. We don't do that enough.
Yes, and I also recall a number of This Day alumni that you relate to it. You see what This Day put into them. When you interface with them, you see the product and how they shine out in the industry. And of course, I will not forget a friend of mine, Imam, who was a political editor in This Day. He's late now. You know, I had a very close interaction with him, and I knew how he was inspired by Prince Nduka Obagbena.
This is what, Charles, you know, you guys have had experiences with the chairman as well. He's someone that gives everyone an opportunity. If you want to work and you want to, really advance in your career, he will give you the opportunity to do so.
Definitely. Chairman plucked me out of YouTube and onto the airways with 24 hours to prepare to become a journalist. But he does see things in people. He does see talents in people, and he believes in like supporting that and growing that and giving you a space to thrive. And I'm someone who's basically around the same age as This Day, so I grew up with This Day, and I remember how important it was to get This Day, after church on Sundays, and you have This Day and then This Day Style, and the innovation, not just like the news and the quality, but also the innovation and the new life that it brought to newspapers in Nigeria. It's incredible actually to at this stage be at Arise, and Arise has been here for 12 years, This Day 30 years, and we're seeing this growth and this trajectory, and it's a beautiful thing to have independent voices on the airways and in print media.
The chairman is someone who has really found the expression disrupting the curve. Prince Obagbena is always innovating. I mean, I first heard about him when he was at Newswatch, and then Tell, and then This Day, that redefined, print journalism. I mean, the style of writing was absolutely unique, very attractive, and that's why at the newsstands, most of these are freeloaders, Free Readers Association will always go for that newspaper first. And then, before he knew what was happening, of course, he has seized the television bull by the horns, redefining news broadcasting. So, yes, this is the place to be.
A big congratulations to This Day. That's raised a lot of people. When you look at the roll call of people that have passed through that organization, it's unbelievable, and they've gone on. The people that have moved on to other things have gone on to do wonderful things in their lives. So congratulations once again to This Day. I'm so proud that I had the opportunity to work for that paper. Anyway, so let's move on to the second story. Still in This Day, we're talking about Ogoni here. The president, Tinubu, to Ogoni leaders: we can't heal past wounds if we continue to be angry. The president met with Ogoni leaders, the governor of Rivers State, and Minister Nyesom Wike in Abuja. He's correct when he says that you can't solve problems being angry. At the same time, at least the federal government can begin by cleaning up Ogoni land. The devastation in the whole of the Niger Delta, it's unbelievable, Charles, isn't it?
Absolutely. Ogoni land has been a very, very thorny situation on the Nigerian ecological and political landscape, from the oil spillage that was detected there back in the 1990s to that conflict that took the lives of those Ogoni leaders, and then subsequently Ken Saro-Wiwa, the author and movie producer, or television producer rather, was executed along with others for complicity in their deaths. And it's been from bad blood to bad blood, and right now Ogoni land is facing all sorts of crises, and I guess at this point it has to take the direct intervention of the president, so that that restiveness in Ogoni land that probably spawned restiveness across the rest of the Niger Delta would have to be dealt with once and for all. Right. And like he said, look, if you keep referring to what happened in the past, yes, people died, people were killed, things happened, but it's time to bury the hatchet and tread the path of peace.
Well, let's see whether peace will reign. Daily Trust this morning: Japa, our hospitals will be empty in 2 years. CMDS, 16,000 doctors left Nigeria in 5 years. CMDS refers to chief medical directors of university teaching hospitals and federal medical centers. They are warning that doctors and nurses are still leaving in droves. They said this during the budget defense session of health institutions. There's still a lot coming out from these budget defense sections of recent. They've said drastic measures have to be taken in regard to remuneration, because while the government may be making some expenditures on infrastructure, they may eventually have empty hospitals. This one, I mean, it's a case of drastic problems require drastic solutions.
Definitely, and this is extremely frightening. Like, we should also remember that Nigeria already has a very low ratio of medical professionals to citizens, you know, even before JAPA began.
Yes.
And so if we're talking about that, already we were already underserved. If we come, even when we talk about specialties like neurosurgeons and orthopedic surgeons, heart surgeons, cardiologists, we were already underserved in Nigeria. And for these people to be leaving, and for the nurses, the backbone of the hospitals, to be leaving for brighter, you know, futures, and it's very understandable. There's very high economic pressure and people want to look out for themselves. However, it is very, very scary.
It is.
And it's one of these things that anytime people say Nigeria would touch everybody at some point in time, this is something that is scary, because anyone at any point in time can have need of a medical facility or medical emergency. And we've seen that Nigeria can touch you at any point in time. If there's nobody to take care of you, if there's no oxygen in the hospital, then what are we saying? And I understand that for the federal government, we're dealing with, you know, low money, but this is when you talk about priorities.
Right.
I think for years now we've not really prioritized healthcare in this country. I really don't understand why. I mean, we have to be healthy in order to function optimally, both as professionals and even as human beings. And of course, because of this situation, you know, trained doctors are leaving, and now people are running to churches for miraculous healing. I mean, that definitely does not speak well of a country of Nigeria's magnitude.
Yeah, and when the Nigerian political elite catch a cold, they fly to Paris.
Yeah.
Right. And the interesting thing is that Nigerian doctors all over the world are renowned.
Yeah.
They're doing so well.
Yeah.
Everywhere you
Best
go
of
to,
the
you go
best.
to America, you go to the United
England.
Kingdom, everyone talks
Even the
about
Middle
Nigerian
East,
doctors.
Dubai.
Yes,
This is true.
yes, the Middle
Australia.
East as well. I had
Yes.
a classmate from primary school actually that left 2 years ago to somewhere in the Middle East. Yeah, because of the same reason. So it's so sad. You know, the Punch. Let's move on to the Punch. How El Rufai SCOS laundered 3.9 billion naira forex proceeds, according to ICPC. The former chief of staff to former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El Rufai, Mr. Bashir Sidu. He also served as Commissioner of Finance in that state. He's been arraigned by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission. Earlier, he was arraigned before a federal high court in Kaduna on 2 counts, bordering on 155 million naira fraud. Fresh 10 counts were presented before the court on Tuesday, accusing Saidu of selling $45 million in government funds at an undervalued rate, causing the state to lose 3.96 billion naira, which the prosecution claims was then laundered. Emmanuel, I mean, this is obviously an ongoing case. It is in court. The ICPC will have to prove whether he's guilty. But this story is sordid, and it's actually commonplace in government circles.
Our political actors manage public resources. If what the ICPC is saying is true, and if it is proved, it shows that the former chief of staff and commissioner for finance undervalued the resources of the state, probably for personal reasons. But whatever, you also realize that all this has to do with how Nigerians play with the dollar. The fact that the dollar has become a commodity or a currency for exchange, and which makes it liable for people, which makes it possible for people or those who are exposed to getting free dollar to use it for personal gains. And I also would like to say that this trial is also being put up as being political in some cycles, because this is the fourth. He's the former chief of staff is the fourth former aide of Malam Nasir El Rufai to undergo trial. So people are also asking, why is was it only El Rufai's aides that did all these things? Because we know this is a common thing among political actors in Nigeria. Those who get the dollar at a cheap rate, they will go to the black market and sell it. So while we commend the ICPC for picking a suspect, we want them to be comprehensive. Let this broom sweep across the whole till. Let every person that is liable, every person that has been exposed, every person that is guilty, let all of them be brought to trial.
Also act on petitions. You know, if they receive petitions concerning certain individuals, then they go ahead and investigate it. And then if it has some meat, and then they will, you know, proceed to court. Well, the case is ongoing, so we will be following that for you. New Telegraph, census must hold this year, Senate tells FG. Laments Nigeria still planning with 19-year-old figures. The legislators are not mincing words at all, and they've told the National Population Commission, NPC, that the country needs to have a census in 2025. And they said this during the budget defense session. Senate said that Nigeria is still relying on estimated population figures as well as data provided by foreign bodies. I mean, not much can be said about this. We do need a new census in this country. This one, Charles, you can jump in.
Definitely. I mean, the importance of data is very understated, and particularly in public discourse. The former governor of Lagos State and the former minister, Fashola, released a book recently, and I was talking about public discourse and the importance of data and the lack of it. And when we discuss Nigerians' problems, and so that people rely on hyperbole. Now, when it comes to our population and our census, it is a very political matter, unfortunately. It's a very political matter. And it's one of those things that
unfortunately shouldn't be.
It should not be, you know, and it's one of those things that, you know, Nigerian politics often gets in the way of our progress and the things that we need, because it's being so political now that people will come out with numbers and there's a lack of trust in the system as well. So honestly, a good luck to us.
I know that there was actually an attempt to conduct a census. I think that was back in 2022.
Yes, it failed.
I really don't know what happened, but yes, indeed, it did not happen. And now there's this agitation from our lawmakers for it. You know, so many contrary factors are being cited. Insecurity, for one. I mean, in those remote areas where you have activities of bandits and you know, terrorists going on unchecked, how are those areas going to be enumerated? Okay. So the factors have to be properly dealt with before we can have a census. Yes, calling for a census, that's what everybody wants, but then do we have the right atmosphere to conduct a census at this point?
All right, daily graphic to the international headlines. 17 more ministers nominated, cabinet secretary, 9 presidential staffers named. So the new Ghanaian government of John Dramani Mahama is taking shape. And then on to Citizen newspaper. We must build more schools. South Africa has less schools in 2023 than in 2009, although there were 1.6 million more pupils in the education system. As of last year, there were 2,000 less schools. The report also says the Department of Education is not spending its allocated budget for new infrastructure. That's part of the problem. Yolanda, school crisis in South Africa, stories of stranded pupils. This is not how the students hoped for this new year to begin.
Yes, I'm sure, you know, we've been talking about this for a while as well. I think a few days ago, we spoke about how pupils were writing their examinations and they were not able to have the right facilities for that. That was number one. Another thing that we were looking at that day, if I remember well, is the fact that the teachers were ill-educated. And so this just creates a cycle that is going on of creating a population of citizens that are not well educated.
Definitely.
And if our children are the future, what kind of future are we building with these kinds of situations?
Yolanda, you know what I find fascinating is that on the cover of that Citizen
Yes,
paper
I
is
noticed
a
as
picture
well,
that we
yes.
have been talking about
Absolutely,
a lot.
yes.
If you can pull up the Citizen again, it's the
Yes.
picture of Elon Musk.
Yes.
And what people are arguing, is it a Nazi salute? Is
Absolutely.
it a Roman salute? And the caption on the picture says, "What the heck, Elon?"
Yes, I noticed that as well. That's pretty scary.
Definitely. And he said, you know, these accusations of Hitler, everybody being
Yes.
Hitler is tired, you know. But anyway, we have it on the front page there. The Times this morning, Southport killer got knife on Amazon. Retail giant branded a disgrace by ministers in the United Kingdom. The 17-year-old that killed 3 children last year apparently was able to buy the knife online, raising so many questions that British government has tried to answer. The outrage has continued as the Prime Minister says terror laws will be overhauled amid a tidal wave of violence in the country. Emmanuel, part of the talk here is how to convince tech giants to remove content that murderers find inspiring online. And by the way, when you look at the Trump inauguration, you know, the leaders of the tech giants, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, they were all there. Yeah, so
his cabinet was
in the
sitting
second
behind
row.
them.
That's
Right.
right.
And
So-
the Republican governors were in the other room.
Guess who the cabinet is? The real kitchen cabinet is.
right. So much pressure will be on them, Emmanuel. What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, there's pressure on them, but one must also appreciate the effort in this specific case by the British Prime Minister to shine the light at what he describes as the dark spots in the country. He describes it as a dark spot, and that light must come onto that dark spot. He has mandated, a commissioner, he has somebody like a special counsel to interrogate the issues and to make sure that the opportunities for people to get access to such murderous weapons are removed. And it is amazing, even this morning as I checked on Amazon website, I saw that it's so easy for you to order a knife to bring it home. So, and
I don't know.
Appliances.
They sell everything, right? You can get anything on Amazon.
I think
can't
it
you?
might be scarier
but
that these boys are being...
but you shouldn't get murder weapons.
I mean, a knife is also a kitchen tool, right?
Yes.
I think what is scarier,
Then who is-
particularly because we were just talking about Elon Musk and his affinity for the right wing, I think what is scarier is that we're seeing young children being radicalized in different ways, whether it is Islamic extremism or white white supremacy or right-wing propaganda. And when you have these tech giants and when you have these oligarchs who are richer than countries, who have more money
Right.
in their banks than countries have GDPs, controlling the way young children are influenced and easily influenced by extremist elements, that's terrifying for society.
Okay.
And that's what, you know, the TikTok ban and all these things, that's what these conversations are bringing up. And I think England is doing well to tackle it because they do have a young population that you've seen extremist elements on
Are they
different
really
sides.
tackling
Right.
it?
Let's finally, Financial Times, quickly before we go. Trump widens economic war to tax. You know, he's threatening to double rates on foreign citizens and businesses. His pledge of a new trade tariff against allies. You know, he's also talking about support for OECD pact on global levies to be withdrawn. He's already withdrawn, of course, from the World Health Organization. And EU is suspecting influence of tech billionaires on policy. We've already talked about that. They were
Yes.
all in the room there. That's why you mentioned that the governors were in the
Outside,
other room
they were in the other
while they were in front. Yeah, so a lot happening at a very rapid pace. He's aware that this is his last 4 years in government or in power. So I think he's trying to do as much as possible. We'll have to, we're pressed for time, so this is all we can take on Newspaper Review this morning. Thank you so much, Emmanuel Azikian, columnist at Vanguard Newspaper, for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Constance Ikwoku. I'm sure you feel like it's your birthday too. Happy birthday to this day at 30.
I know.
Well, that is all the time we have for you today on Daybreak. I am Adesua Giwa Osage.
I'm Charles Eruka. It's goodbye from me.
And I'm Yolanda Robert. Please do keep it here on Arise News. The morning show is next. Goodbye.